Hi, it's Tom from Green Shorts, and today's video is about redemption. Redeeming a rocket stove, that is. It's also a snowy day in Georgia, which only happens about once every other year. Here's the culprit. I shouldn't call it a culprit because it's not its fault. It's my fault. Because I tried to play with the laws of physics here. I think the fire tunnel was far too long, and that made the draw on this not as effective as it could have been. It may have been also that this grill, which was kind of the point behind the longer fire tunnel, this grill was designed to pull heat out and make a grill, but it might have been that I was pulling out too much heat. So my hope is that some simple surgery can fix this stove. And by simple surgery, I mean basically cutting out the grill section, welding it back together. And my plan is to actually use the grill for another stove I'm working on. I'm gonna cut this down, but first I gotta fend off this attack. That looks like an unsavory character over there. Hey, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Take your best shot. Oh my gosh, that wasn't even close. Don't hit the camera. Ah! Ah! I'm actually glad to be salvaging this because a lot of cool stuff went into this stove, and I'm curious to see if I can make it work. A little ashtray here underneath. This was a thing to use pellets, sort of dual fuel. Sticks in here, pelletized fuel to go in the top here. I'm gonna cut here, and then about here. That'll let me keep the legs, and I've got a little clip here that lets this bend in half. Actually hinged here. So you can see what I was dealing with here, incomplete burn. Just not enough airflow. Eyes and ears, JW. Whew. I'm going to switch to my welding jacket so I don't destroy this puffer coat here. Those metal sparks would cut right through this nylon. All right, get my good old cotton welding jacket on and try and cut that weld off. Should be able to separate the grill from the fire tunnel, at least this section that I want to keep. I'm going to grab the reciprocating saw because the grinder disc isn't deep enough to reach all the way down on that cut. I love these Ryobi 1 Plus tools. Batteries are interchangeable, and they're not too expensive to build out a tool set. A little more in this spot right there, and I should be able to fatigue that piece off. a little bent up, but can straighten that out when I reattach it. But I've got my bolt here, and that's what I wanted to keep. Alright, so got the grill off in one piece. I'll have to deal with this tube on the bottom here, but that will be for another project. What I have now is the smaller section of fire tunnel here that I can weld back together. And this is going from a J tube of sorts to a L tube, which just has two parts, fire tunnel and riser. Alright, so I'm going to clean this up and weld it together. This piece is going to need a little straightening out. This corner here is a little high and out of square. I'm going to tack this side and this side, and then I've got to bend the top down. Being that it's a pretty cold day, I'm going to put some heat on this. That'll help the weld go a little deeper. Of course, I have beveled both my edges here so the weld can go down inside that V groove. Now I'll close up this side. You can tell that weld is cold because it's so high up. See if I can heat up the bottom a little bit more before I weld that and see if that does better. Didn't want to burn the sticker off my magnets. Ah, much better. Definitely down in that groove. Got a little bit of a gap to fill on this side. Burned out a little hole here. Just need to let it cool down a little bit and I can kind of patch it in. Alright. Respectable. That's all I'm going for here. I'm definitely not a welder. But the metal sticks together. This section right here got a little bent up as I was taking the stove apart. So I'm going to heat this up a little bit and bend it back down with a hammer before I weld it. I'm not looking to grind this bead down to 0, just clean it up a little bit. After all, any surgery is going to leave a little scar. My first cold bead here, it's going to need a little more work. That bottom bead doesn't need any. I also dealt with a little bit of the surface rust on this metal that I didn't paint the last time I worked on this stove. Alright, it's ready for some paint. I'm going to get a little more of the surface rust with a sanding sponge. Then I'm going to hit it with some high heat ultra. Whew, alright, that looks good. I'm going to let it dry a little bit and then reassemble. And then the ashtray slides in under here. Alright, I think this thing's ready to fire up. But I need a snowy backdrop. So the snow is now freezing rain. Not as pretty. Thankfully I had set aside some dry wood and got some pellets here as well. I'm going to load the stove. Some more fuel in there. Let this fire get established before I add too much more fuel. I don't want to put it out. It's pretty windy out and it keeps downdrafting and putting the fire out. Alright, now I'm going to add some pellets to the pellet magazine. And the idea is that the draft pulls this fire across the pellets, which are dipping down into the fire tunnel a little bit, and then it ignites the pellets, and it becomes a secondary fuel to kind of power that updraft up the riser. Riser is still a little smoky, so I'm not getting complete burn there. I think I'm going to test this again tomorrow. It's a couple days later, and obviously the snow is melted. It's a lot warmer. And I've played with this stove a couple times since then, and I haven't been really happy with the airflow. Another principle of the rocket stove that I've messed with a little bit here, called a continuous cross section. So you want the dimensions of the air flyer tunnel to be the same all the way through the stove. So there isn't any blockage or turbulence caused by things encroaching, and unfortunately that's what the pellet cage does. It kind of drops down into the stove and crimps in on that continuous cross section. And I'm hoping that if I raise it up a little bit and open up that airflow, that this thing will burn a little bit better. That's the last thing I'm gonna try before I just give up on this thing. I think I just need to go with bigger tube, but in the spirit of redemption, I'm gonna give this one more try. All right, here we go. A little smoky. Nice burn. Definitely pulling it in, not down drafting like it was. The riser was smoky at first, and now it's not so smoky. Getting a clean burn. Gotta keep this fed though. And the airflow could be hindered by the fact that there's a little bit of a bend in the fire tunnel. So it is kind of having to dip down right here a little bit. Although I have, again, the same cross section here and here, but this bend might be causing problems. I do have secondary air coming in underneath here, where the ashtray comes in and out. Hear a little bit of a rocket sound there. A few little wicks of flame coming out the top here. Pretty good heat. I'm going to heat a pot of tea. All right. The good combustion seems to be happening a little bit further back, beyond the bend in the fire tunnel, and I think that's just reduced resistance to the airflow there. This lip on the back of the ashtray might have been causing some air turbulence issues as well. Of course, I got a nice burn out the riser here because put some sticks down in it directly. Alright, so I think I've gotten the best performance I can get out of this stove. And my verdict is that the geometry is still wrong. I think the fatal flaw here is that bend in the fire tunnel and just creating some turbulence there and restricting that airflow, and ultimately I think that's making this stove not perform like it could. I do think that raising the pellet cage out of the airflow was helpful. I think I've learned a lot from this stove, and that's the idea behind this channel, is that I show you what I'm learning even when things don't go to plan. But I do think I was able to improve the performance of this stove and refine some things. I think it's time to put this one on the shelf. So I'm gonna take what I learned on this stove and go bigger. 4 inches instead of 2 inches. As always, I'm here at Green Shorts to help you see green so you can be green and save little green. And a rocket stove is green because I'm using found fuel and I'm burning it efficiently. Yeah, it's not doing so bad. I'm actually getting a little secondary burn from the pellets. You can see up there on the roof. It'll be interesting to see how this scales up. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Saturday. And now for the rest of that snowball fight. That looks like an unsavory character over there. Hey, what are you doing?
Nothing.
Take your best shot. Oh my gosh. That wasn't even close. Don't hit the camera. Ah! I'm waiting till you get close. Oh. I guess the garage got in your way. Ah! Gonna get him with the high-low. Ah, the old high-low gotcha. Ow! Man, I can't. That almost got you in the face. I'm glad it didn't. That would have been. Oh!
Yeah. Got it.
Woo! All right, last one. Ow, that hurt. You can tell it doesn't snow here a lot. You know your snowball game. A little minor league.
Oh my god.
All right, last one, and I got to get this video done. Woo! All right, good job. That was fun. You don't get to do that all the time.
It does not snow quite nearly enough here, I think.
You recognize this kid, college student.
All right.
Trevor
that's enough
Mills.
Of that. That's
All right.
enough of that.
Enough of that. All right.